Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's ANA SeeHer webinar with our partners ABX Advertising Benchmark Index. My name is Yatisha Forde, and I lead Insights and Thought Leadership for SeeHer. We want to thank you all for being here today and for your interest in the topic, Missing the Modern Man in Ads, How to Evolve Male and Female Interactions to Drive Creative Impact. We want to invite you to participate in today's webinar via the chat, as well as some polling questions which will appear shortly. We may have time for some questions at the end as well, but consider this an interactive discussion. So again, my name is Yatisha. I'm the VP of Insights and Thought Leadership for SeeHer and the ANA, and I want to introduce our partner, Gary Getto, who is the president of Advertising Benchmark Index. Thank you
everyone.
for joining us. And Gary's going to share a little bit about ABX before we begin.
Yeah, so we've been working with SeeHer and the ANA since 2016. We developed a system for measuring gender portrayal. And so far, we've generated about 500,000 ads. And since 2016, every ad that we evaluate that has people in it has a GEM score, the gender equality measure. GEM is not only about maximizing the impact of the portrayal of the characters in your ads, but it's all about generating higher ROI from your advertising investment.
And of course, that means a great deal to us at SeeHer as well as our member community, because our mission is to help marketers to drive growth through increasing the accurate representation and portrayal of all women and girls in advertising throughout the global marketing and media ecosystem now and for generations to come. So our partnership was initiated with the creation of GEM, for which we are pioneering partners and for which a lot of what you're going to see within this presentation is based upon. And what GEM is a measurement, as Gary spoke to earlier, that measures the effectiveness of human portrayals in advertising. What we're probably best known for, because of the impetus of creating the measurement, was focused on helping to uplift and elevate the portrayal of women and girls. However, it's important to note that ABX has been collecting data within their creative best practices in advertising measurement around all human portrayals, from the way that they are presented, if it's in a respectful manner, appropriate, and can they be seen as role models as part of the GEM methodology. And what that has enabled them to amass is the largest database of creative tested globally with over 415,000 ads. The scale of that represents 90% of global advertising spend, and we rely on them heavily for the use of their database and testing for benchmarks and best practices. And the depth and breadth of what this enables us to do is to slice and dice this data to provide insights back to our community and to the industry by country, by different ad types and platforms, categories, different consumer segments, brands, even verticals like sports or different thematics we're able to dive into as a result of the robustness and the maturity of the testing capability that they provided. And so we wanted to showcase one of those capabilities by turning a little bit of our focus today to the conversation around how men can be portrayed. And I think that it's a very timely conversation given what's going on in conversations I've seen throughout the marketplace about how men are evolving and becoming more vulnerable. And they're also becoming a lot more vocal in terms of how they want to be represented and portrayed and allowed to be in the world. And what that essentially correlates to is higher effectiveness, more growth in terms of brand KPIs, because we know when consumers see themselves reflected in this way, and because we know how those thought processes are shifting, we can help marketers to help themselves to more accurately reflect and portray them and to grow their brand KPIs. So let's start off by talking about women. I would be remiss being from SeeHer if I did not first talk about what we've learned about the portrayals of women because it really helped to lead into the conversation that we're going to have about men. And so we're just going to start off with some grounding about the ineffectiveness that we've seen in advertising portrayals when it comes to women and how we've been working to alleviate that. So women are present in ads, and women have a very huge role to play in terms of economic power as well as influence over categories. But you surprisingly, what we've seen in 2024 when we looked at the overall GEM database was that women were only in 39% of ads in the US. That's probably very shocking. Actually present in ads, despite a lot of categories that target women. But we also saw, despite the uplift in the actual presence of women in advertising, that the portrayal of those women characters was declining, meaning that the GEM scores from a 102 in 2018 to a 100 represents a 2-point decline back to an average or a baseline in terms of the way that consumers perceived women to be accurately portrayed in ads. So there's reasons behind that, and we'll get into that in the next couple of slides. There's a few reasons, but first, let's get your opinions on that. And we're gonna pray that the poll works, because this is your opportunity to participate and tell us just in a few short words or a word or two, why do you think portrayals of women are falling short? And you can also feel free to answer in the chat. Are you all able to see the poll? I'm not able to see you, but if you're able to see the poll, let me know. I see a couple of responses coming through. Great. So in terms of answers, I'm not able to see the answers, unfortunately. So let's go to the chat. Yes, you see. Oh, for some reason, I wasn't able to see the answers to the poll. So let's move on for now. But essentially, there's a variety of different reasons why female portrayals are falling short. If you could go to the next slide for us, Susan, and we'll try to get the polling fixed in the next round. But essentially, we learned from a global study that we commissioned with a member that looking over the past couple of years, that consumers perceived what they were seeing in terms of the way women were portrayed as being stereotypical, as backsliding, as going from showing them in the context of being leaders to being more as caretakers, instead of being strong, as being more delicate and dainty, in opposition of being in leading roles to actually being in supporting roles. So these were signals to us as to why we were seeing the GEM scores result the way they were in terms of declines in terms of the female portrayal score. Now, in addition to that, there's also the consumer dynamic of a lot of different expectations. Marketers are placed under a lot of pressure, obviously, to showcase consumers in an authentic way, but that means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. And essentially, there's a lot of opinions and but also this is an opportunity for more points of connection with consumers. However, these rising expectations is creating somewhat of a disconnect in a between identity and real life identity and what people are seeing on screen. And essentially what they're telling us is that you need to be more inclusive because only 16% of women believe that they're accurately portrayed. And this is a decline over the past couple of years in terms of their perceptions of that. So we wanted to show you two different approaches from two members of the SeeHer community to accurately portraying women. And I'll just speak a little bit about those two different approaches. But first, let's have a look at Walmart.
To LA was about taking a leap of faith for myself. Especially as a woman, I think you just gotta go for it. The scariest part was leaving my family and being so far. It was really important to me to build community over food. Finding the right ingredients and the perfect decor helped me stay connected to my roots. and Walmart made that happen. 100%, if I did not move to LA, I wouldn't have my cooking show. Feel the fear and do it anyway.
So here we see a female character portrayed in a very inclusive way as, could you pause that for one moment? As multidimensional, as having different aspects of representation in terms of intersectionality present, as being an independent woman pursuing her own passions, her own interests, in control and self-determined. And then we're going to look at another creative from another member that is a little bit more of a contrast. Let's take a look.
You get power.
Really?
Let's start paying attention to breasts when it matters the most. Early detection for breast cancer is a game changer, and why I'm able to be here today. So let's get more women screened than ever before. Go to yourattentionplease.com and take the first step.
So you might recall this Super Bowl creative, which intentionally put the focus on women and objectifying them. If you'd be surprised probably to know this, but one of the key barriers that women face in terms of the way that they're portrayed is over sexualization. But what this creative did was use some intentionality around the way that they did that and showed their brand aligning to a social cause that impacts and affects women in a positive way. And what we've seen through research that we've done is that when a brand showcases some aspect of alignment to women and empowering women, they also can have a positive impact. And this is just a small case study representative of that, excuse me, in terms of how GEM scores and accurate portrayal of women and supporting women causes correlates to helping to uplift brand reputation almost one-to-one. So for every point of GEM that you can increase your ad, you'll also receive an additional point of reputation, brand reputation in a positive direction. And then the same thing for call to action to a lesser degree, because that's little bit of a harder metric to move, but nevertheless, it's a positive trajectory. When you, excuse me, y'all, sorry about that. When you have higher GEM scores, you're going to see your brand metrics improve. Now, knowing that, why isn't everyone doing it? We don't know. We want to spread the word and help everyone to do it, but there are certain things that may not be in your power or that you may not be aware of that are hidden factors that are impeding the portrayal of women in your advertising. And so we wanted to suss that out essentially. And what we found was, and why we came to do this webinar and this workshop, is because oftentimes male portrayals are not ones in which they help to elevate female portrayals. And there's a lot of interaction between male and female characters in advertising. So if you look at the table on the left side, you'll see that when women are in ads with children, the GEM score is above the norm. When they're in ads alone, it's above the norm. But when they're with men, it's kind of flat. And essentially 58% of ads actually feature both men and women. So that's the majority of ads. So we wanted to look into how we could perhaps elevate the male characters and evolve them as well as the interaction with female characters. So would that in fact help the overall GEM scores for both? What would it do for creative effect? And that's where we partnered with ABX. And we would like to turn it over to Gary now to share some of those insights because we think they're very meaningful and helpful in your journey. But where it kind of started for us was when we did a study with Gen Z, that the mindset of the consumer was shifting, particularly the younger consumers who believed that it was okay for males and females to do certain things. And I think up until this point, a lot of the approach had been to show women in a counter stereotypical, empowered way where they were equal or equitable to men doing what they could do. We didn't really think about what that would do to male portrayals, or in reverse, if we should be thinking about if men could do what women could do. And this really shed a light on that and sent us on a path and a journey to explore what modern male portrayals would look like. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Gary, who's going to take you through the findings from the male depictions and the assessment that was done through GEM.
Yeah, thanks for Yatisha. So, um, we're asking a survey question. Do you think male portrayals and ads could be improved? But without even going to a poll, the answer is, of course, they can. Nothing is ever perfect the way it's being presented. Um, Next slide, Susan. So one of the things that we've noticed, and we've been measuring male, female, boy, girl portrayals from day one. One of the things we've always found fascinating is that when there's a male and female character in an ad, the male score is virtually always more positive than the female portrayal. Um, in so many ads, there's a male and a female in the ad, but they're really not having a conversation. They're really not part of the same piece. They just happen to both exist within the ad. And one of our theories is that the way we present the female is often, as we saw in one of the earlier slides, as subordinate, as a role player, not the lead in the ad. And changing some of those things improves things, and also the way we cast the male character, how we present him, and things like that. So if we go to the next slide, we've got some data that shows that what we're calling a modern male, okay, not the traditional male who is athletic and muscle bound and very macho, but a modern male who is um, more of a partner, more I'll call him intellectual, but someone who is less caveman and more more of a partner. When we look at how those ads score, the modern ads with a modern male character are almost 10% higher in terms of their ABX index. And the ABX index has been shown to correlate with things we care about, like sales and store traffic and overall improvement in ROI. At the same time, the GEM index, the portrayal score for those males, also improves. And in fact, the ABX index improves slightly more than the GEM index. So, there's leverage. So it really makes sense to think about, how you're partnering the male and female in your ads. We've traditionally looked at just the female scores, but it really is the interaction. And something that we find very interesting when we go and survey male attitudes versus female attitudes towards the whole issue of accurate portrayal and gender portrayal, we find that surprisingly, men are much more positive about improving gender equality than are females. Okay, so these kinds of results are not too much of a surprise. Next slide. So when we talk about modern men, you know, the, the definition of what we mean by a modern man is, still a little bit in flux. But men, traditional men are often portrayed as sports fanatics and problem solvers and tech savvy and hyper masculine and aggressive. They're not as often portrayed as uh, passive and socially conscious and emotionally expressive, and a supportive friend and partner to the female in their life and in the ad. And consumers basically say, we would like to see these men, or when they do see these men who are quote unquote modern, they reward us by saying, hey, these ads are more accurate, and they respond to our advertising messages more favorably. So a good thing to do. And like we showed you with the women, Susan, if you'll show the male consumer expectation slide. So, they want men to be real people, less corny, a little less exotic, simple, natural, and, pretty much everyday people. And that's all we really need to do. So we'll show you again, a couple of examples of portrayals of men. The ad on the left is from Hilton. Susan, if you can click on that one.
Marco! You're the one who wanted to book a place with our own pool.
Yep.
Marco!
When you'd rather enjoy the pool than clean someone else's.
What is that?
Sweetie, get out of the pool.
Welcome to the Conrad.
It matters where you stay.
Hey, thank you.
Conrad Hotels and Resorts. Hilton, for the stay.
So take your wife to Hilton, the attitude disappears, and you can see that the first scene had a bunch of attitude and a bunch of unhappy people. The second scene shows that when you come to Hilton, everything gets better. Okay. If we go to the next ad.
Bosch dishwashers use water less. Add finished tabs, more success. Work well together every time. Burnt on stains get outshined. Just skip the pre-rinse routine. Bosch and Finish squeaky clean. Bosch and Finish work as one. Goodbye stains, you are done.
So this is a good example of what we talk about as a modern man. The male and female are working together. He's helping do the dishes, but they're doing things together, and there's no real conflict between them. She's not kind of saying, hey, how come you never help with the dishes? Okay. And when we look at positive interactions, the male character collaborating with the female character as an equal partner, that's one of the things that people see very positively. Actively seeking the values that the woman characters, asking for her perspective, sharing diverse interests, expressing individuality, and playing a supporting or secondary role to a female character. So, those are some of the ideas that you can enlist to improve the characterization of men in your ads. Next one, Susan. So, here are some verbatims from what people said when they saw these positive interactions. A man can be vulnerable and still strong. We don't see an awful lot of that. Don't stereotype men as being foolish, dumb, or irrational. Men can like arts as much as sports. That's not really true, but that's what people think. And both individuals can be strong characters without having one diminish the other's role in order to be stronger. So, they can be caring and still be masculine.
I think that was a big one that you talked about, Gary, about not diminishing the male character. We've said it, but now we're hearing, consumers say that. You don't have to elevate the female character to the point that you put the male character down. It's almost the reverse of what we're trying to achieve. And the consumers are saying that they don't like that. So I think that was worth double clicking on, pointing out.
Yep. Thank you. And the data demonstrates the effectiveness of this approach. So the gold bar is the female GEM score, and you can see when you pair a modern male with a female, the female score goes up 3 points. The gray box is the male score; it goes up 6 points, and most importantly, the ABX index, which is an overall measure of creative effectiveness and, the likelihood of improving ROI, goes up a whopping 9 points. So it works. Pay attention to it. Stop just thinking about, the female character. Think about the interaction of the partners.
So we're going to try to, again, to do a poll and do a webinar activity along with the poll where we'll look at a couple of ads and get your feedback on it and see what you've gleaned from what you've seen so far. So the first ad we'll look at and then we'll get your reactions to.
Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
I need help with her snoring.
Sleep Number does that. Quiet their snore so you both can sleep.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sleep better together. Visit sleepnumber.com.
Okay, let's try to launch the poll. Are y'all able to see it?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think, oh great, do you think highly of the way the woman is portrayed in the creator? Ooh, some people are not sure. Interesting. Okay, let's end and let's share. So 44% weren't sure, 39% said no, 17% said yes. So thinking back to what we were speaking about earlier about the interactions with the male and female character, this is one in which that the GEM score would be on the lower side for the female character and the higher side for the male character, essentially because she's more of a background character. And would you think highly? No. Would you see her as a role model? Perhaps not. Like thinking about it, sitting in the consumer seat, seeing this as a survey, think about it from that perspective as you're thinking about GEM, and it could help to illuminate some of the reaction, the way that people would react if you put yourself in the consumer's position. And also thinking about what they're telling us from an insights perspective is that they want to see women as multidimensional, as pursuing their passions, as having agency, as self-determined, and more leading than in supporting roles. That is the reason why, more likely than not, that this would not receive a very high GEM score. Not for the female character, at least, but for the male character, certainly. Let's look at another ad.
At my last job, I was working across several different groups. You know what? Let me practice that one again.
Okay, when you're ready, tell me about the job that taught you the most.
Okay. Well, it was a role where I learned to take constructive criticism.
I think she oh, no, doesn't like it.
Okay. I got pretty used to, working long hours with a small team. I got very comfortable multitasking. Yep. And I had to become really organized.
Not bad, but try rephrasing.
Yatisha, I think we need to cut it off just from the interest of time, but I think we got most of the sense of this.
Yep, and hopefully, I believe this was also a Super Bowl ad. So if you recall, this shows the male character in a role where he is a partner, a collaborator, and also something that I think is very important, like not showing the man as like domestically incompetent, like just completely inept in doing anything in the home or the family. It's not realistic. It's not modern. It's not showing them as the well-rounded, mutually respectful and able partner and well-rounded person and human that we see more or less in real life, where consumers more or less want to see themselves identified. In some other work that we've done, we saw that 40% of men don't think that they're accurately portrayed. Now, there's only 16% of women, but think about it, 40% of men don't think they're accurately portrayed either. And these are a lot of the reasons why. They don't see themselves reflected in the ways that are more modern and realistic and simple and everyday as they are in real life. So just also some food for thought for you all. Nothing to squelch anyone's creativity, just some additional prompts to give yourself as you're considering how to portray men and how to portray women in the future in your advertising if you want to create more points of connection and empathy with the consumer that you're targeting.
Very good suggestions.
So in conclusion, we want to thank you. We want to thank our partners at Advertising Benchmark Index for being here. Don't leave. Don't leave just yet. Go to the next slide, Susan, because we want to give you all a gift. So the full insights and presentation, as well as an infographic and cheat sheet, as well as what we're evolving to be a modern male portrayal framework, is available via this QR code. And we're going to give you a few seconds to scan that. So that is our gift to you. We hope that you will utilize it, and also that you'll reach out to ABX or to SeeHer if you have any follow-up questions or interest in diving further into this. We're looking to further develop this research and come out with a white paper relatively shortly as well. But we wanted you all to have that as a starting point, and for us to have more conversations hopefully in the future around this topic and others, as you see the capabilities of ABX and SeeHer align with your goals. And of course, if you want to grow, we're here. You're welcome. So now I have something to ask of you. When you leave this call, please take our survey. It is literally only 2 questions. It will take you 1 minute. And Susan, if you can go to the next slide, there's a QR code for that, but you should be receiving a pop-up shortly after you close. That will be the link to the survey. I promise you it's painless, but it really helps us to make our content better and to speak more to your needs. So we would appreciate your feedback. And again, we want to thank you all for coming. We appreciate you taking the time this afternoon, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you, Gary.
Thanks,
And
Yatisha. It was
you could
great.
put up Gary's information in case they need to reach out to him before everyone leaves. There it is. So reach out to Gary at adbenchmark.com. And there is my email address, yforde@ana.net. If you have any further questions or would like to connect, love to hear from you. Thank you all very much. Have a great afternoon.